Hi guys, Matt the Editor here, and welcome to another edition to my Who Reviews. This week is It Takes You Away by Ed Heim. Now, I'm not a fan of most Doctor Who episodes that just have a simple phrase or line in the episode for the title. When the announcement for this episode came out, I didn't have that much knowledge of what to expect. But again, like some of the other episodes, the Next Time trailer gave me a quick look at what we might be going to get. And with this one, it seemed like we were going to get a sort of cabin in the woods vibe story. Even the early reviews have been saying you have to watch this live, you have to watch it to the end, you have to check it out, stuff like that. But I didn't raise my hopes up way too high like all the other episodes. Once the episode was released, everyone had been saying that it was amazing. Now let me tell you, I have never felt an overwhelming sensation that this episode is 100% average. You heard right, I think it's average. It's honestly hard to think about what else to say about it. It's average. How's the acting? It's okay. How are the characters? They're okay. How are the visuals? They're okay. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just average. Okay, I'm gonna get this out of the way first. First time, I found it pretty weak. I really did not understand what it was all about, what the audience or critics were talking about. But since I had to look back at some parts of it for my review, some of my thoughts slightly changed a little bit. People are saying it's the best episode of the series. It takes you away, more like it blew you away. Stuff like that. And also, it's never been seen. It's something we've never seen before. Everybody has seen it before. From when we got to the midpoint of the episode, I knew exactly what the story was going to be about. I knew how it was going to play out, and I knew how it was going to end. I even knew what the episode was trying to say. Now, it's not to say I'm against it. Honestly, this episode has good intentions. In fact, it has good concepts to explore, particularly with the mirror world. Hannah's dad using sound to keep her daughter safe, the stuff with him staying with his now dead wife, Graham trying to let Grace go. All of them are good concepts, but combining them together... Okay, I'm not angry with it because it wouldn't work. I'm actually angry of it because it could have worked. I mean, using this separate exiled universe that is also a consciousness, prop for commentary on such human conditions as lost longing and isolation, this seemed like a great concept idea if done well. I've seen other TV shows and films that have tackled on this subject before, and they have really tried. Some of them have worked pretty well, but some of them still left some things unanswered or just left it confusing to understand. In fact, we've had earlier episodes of Doctor Who in which, particularly in the revival stories, that have told this story before. Father's Day, Rise of the Cybermen, Doomsday, all tackled on this idea before. This episode, while I appreciate what it was trying to do, just has something we've seen done so many times. This episode did seem like it was on the right track of what it was trying to do when it reaches the mirror world. But the reason it didn't work for me is because it was a little too late. Even when we saw Grace appear in the episode, which by the way, I guessed it so easily at that scene. It's great to see Sharon D. Clarke reprise her role. I did like the scene where Graham is trying to get to the fact that it's not her, but he still explains to her his travels in the series. Which then leads to Grace saying that they seem to have gone well without her. That was a chilling moment. In fact, I was literally thinking at that moment where it could have gone. Bradley Walsh and Sharon D. Clarke delivered quite possibly the best performances. So incredibly powerful, but it's so beautifully simple. There's no CGI, no distractions, just Graham and Grace having a nice little talk. And it's brilliant. But throughout the entire second act, I literally did not care what would happen next, because the main issue with this episode is that it's so boring. From the moment we saw the mother and Grace alive, I knew exactly what was going to happen. They're going to be tested to accept this vision of their loved ones, but in the end find out that it's not them, which means they would have to go back to their own world. It's so predictable. The one pet peeve I have about this episode is mostly the family. Now, it's not to say it's bad. I mean, the actors do a good job. Hannah is portrayed by a good actress, even though I think there are some moments which I think she needed to be directed a bit more. But the biggest issue I have is her father. So her father has wanted to keep his daughter safe in the house, away from the mountains or the great outdoors. Okay, that's fine, that's an interesting idea, but then we find out he's spending his time in the mirror world with his now alive wife. On its own, it's not a bad idea, but he still left his daughter alone in the house, probably to die. I didn't care if he was with his wife. I didn't care how tortured he was. I didn't even care when he finally knew it wasn't his wife. He is an awful, awful man who spends his life happily, probably having a weird affair, and has abandoned his daughter alone. If he really cared for his daughter, he would have gone back to bring her to the mirror world. I know technically if he did, then Hannah would know it's not her, but we didn't know that. Also, what was the point of Ribbons, this kind of orc-like creature in the tunnels played by Kevin Eldon? Oh my god, no. Yes, the makeup is kind of neat, especially in this lighting, and upon first viewing, I thought this could have been interesting to see in the episode. But it turns out that this is just a generic alien thief. Of course he talks like an animal. Of course he's going to get them lost. Of course he's just a MacGuffin to get the Doctor and team to the portal. Of course he betrays them. Of course he gets killed by the moths. Oh yeah, there's killer moths in this episode. Now, this could have been a fun, creepy idea with those moths, but in execution, it's so lame. And the CGI is okay for the most part. Their attacks is either in shaky cam, in the smoke, or off screen. That is just lazy. In fact, why did we need Ribbons, and why did we need the moths? Why couldn't the Doctor and the team just get easily lost by accidentally dropping the thread? Maybe trip over, or perhaps have another one of those earthquakes and then get themselves lost in the tunnels to coincidentally get into the mirror world. Why did we need Ribbons, and why did we need these moths? Now, I know I go on about things wrong with episodes, but let's look at this possible solution this episode could have had. What if the episode just had the Doctor and the team in the mirror world? Take out the family subplot, take out the alien thief, and just have the episode start off with the Doctor and the team suddenly appearing in the house. They can go out and do a bit more exploring, try to find a way out, and then they come across the mirror, and then they can suddenly find all these things that they've lost in their lives reappear in front of them. Grace can be there. Maybe Ryan's dad, whom we've never seen or talked about a lot in this series, could be there. Maybe someone in Yaz's family could be there. Therefore, giving us enough time for each character to develop and further the motive idea of the episode. So, okay, I've given this episode some really hard, but is there anything at least great about this episode? Two things. Not much, but two really great things that this episode has done. One, it ended the Ryan and Graham subplot. I liked how it finally got Ryan to accept Graham as his granddad. Although this episode is just a throwaway episode before we get to the series finale, I didn't mind, because have this episode focused on Graham and Ryan letting Grace go, this could have worked. But honestly, both the actors do a pretty good job. I did get emotional at that moment, and I did like how it ended. And two, I think this episode, in my opinion, has one of the best performed scenes by Jodie Whittaker. Not to say there weren't any other good moments. I mean, I did like her serious moments in this episode, whether she's talking to Hannah, interrogating with the consciousness, or even threatening to possibly injure Ribbons. Jodie does really good in the serious moments, even though the comedy elements and modern talk do get in the way a little, and her exposition scenes really were a little boring or complicated to get through. She still had some good moments. But the definitive moment for me is the scene where Jodie is in this limbo location and talking to the consciousness in the form of a frog. I know some people said they did not like it, they found it ridiculous and pretty much cheap, but honestly, I think it fits. Yeah, it doesn't make sense, and I know it's ridiculous to look at, but since this threat is pretty much based on a childhood fairy tale the Doctor was told about, it kind of worked. Plus, you could make the argument it's an indication of incarnation. And since this frog is voiced by Sharon D. Clarke, who also plays Grace in the episode, it kind of makes sense because she mentions earlier in the episode when she's looking at the locket Graham has that she likes frogs. So you could make the argument that it's possible that Grace may have been reincarnated into a frog. But not only that, we get this long one shot of the Doctor talking to this frog with this thing which she has never thought she would have seen in her travels, and explains to it the reality, truth, experiences, and the people of her dimension. and the fact that the Doctor has literally given up everything she has done, traveling, her companions, her TARDIS, Gallifrey, everything in her world to save a deadbeat person. It is well performed by Jodie in that one shot. Honestly, having the camera focus mainly on her in that white background really helped out a lot. Yasmin and Ryan have a good contrast. Yasmin is good with children whilst Ryan isn't. I'll even say Hannah is portrayed decently. I like the idea of getting a random person to play this character rather than go for someone famous. At first I thought it was bad acting since the actress kind of looked like she was half asleep, but then I found out later she's an actual blind actress and I literally felt bad. And honestly, in both viewings, she has good moments. And I'm not gonna lie, I really did like her relationship with Ryan in this episode. I liked how it was developed, and maybe if it was developed a little bit more, maybe have Ryan compare Hannah's problems with his father, and maybe he decides to help this girl's troubles to be resolved since his wasn't. I'll even say the mirror world is kind of neat when you fully examine it. I like how there are nice little touches added to these scenes. For example, I noticed that the Doctor's fringe has switched sides, or the Dad's logo on his t-shirt was reversed. And while I do not understand the reason, but the Doctor does give a clever theory on this solid tract on how the universe cannot work together. And she gave us a pretty good example, an interesting way of saying a sick child wants to join the group, but he cannot because it might affect the other children. That's a brilliant way of describing this threat. The lighting is pretty good too, particularly in the tunnels. I think the best looking shot in my opinion is the Doctor pointing her screwdriver in the blue background with the red light reflecting on her. That is masterful cinematic lighting right there. So yeah, I can't say this is a groundbreaking or uplifting episode. It just has the stuff I've seen done so many times. It has good intentions and there are elements of it scattered in the episode, but the execution is done poorly. The story structure is paced rather boringly. I don't care if there's a reverse the polarity reference. I don't care there's a mention to the Cygons. A poor script is a poor script. I even feel a lot of emotional weight they were going for in this episode. But aside from all that, there are some good moments with the characters. Graham and Ryan have good moments, and Jodie's serious acting is the shining beacon of this Doctor. Aside from that, the episode is a drag, and I really wanted to feel for it. I wanted to cry. I wanted to feel emotionalized at the end of this episode, but it didn't work because even when the sad moments come up, you care so little about why they're sad because it becomes so hard to get invested. But seeing the episode as it is, it's just average. In the end, it's just a throwaway episode before we get to the series finale, which I hope to Omega is worth the wait and worth the travel. I'm going to give this episode 5 out of 10. Be sure to leave a comment, like and share this video, and if you have seen the episode, what did you think about it? And if you'd like to see more of my videos, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.